However, many people violate this rule to take advantage and bypass the system for their own benefit. There are adventurers who are tempted by money and don't want to pay the enormous and abusive fees. Stickily, away from the government, they keep these treasures without the inspectors noticing. If these criminals are not caught, society as a whole suffer a tremendous loss, which can create endless problems. That's why the propaganda ends by asking all citizens who see smugglers stealing to report them so that these bandits can be punished. After the brief explanation, we return to the moment when the fight between the ex-adventurer and Jerry Young stopped. The boy's boss was calmly lighting a cigarette, and next to him, the bald man is confused, asking how the man could be so calm. Staying with the man wasn't showing any reaction at all. He calls Jawan to clear up a doubt. Looking at his subordinate and the young boy who were starting to prepare to fight, he asked the boss if he's really going to let that happen. Jawan questions the bald man if he's going to chicken out after coming this far, and upon hearing that, the man retorts, saying that they should be scared. He also explains that the reason he retired wasn't because of injuries, but because he attacked teammates and that he wouldn't go easy on the boy. Our protagonist hears this, and after repeating the crime his rival had committed, sarcastically remarks that it was very scary, affirming that Pilju was indeed a criminal. Pilju begins to mock and boast, saying that the guy he killed was pathetic, just holding him back, and he simply threw the trash away. Upon hearing this, Jerry Young starts to laugh, saying that he understood what the man meant. He then asserts that Pilju should be self-aware because he was also trash, having caused trouble and lost his license, due to your responsibility. But before the boy could continue talking and mocking, the man quickly lunges to punch him in the face. However, noticing where he had struck, the man is startled to realize something. He observes that Jerry Young had managed to dodge simply by turning his face to the side, and the boy remarks that attacking like that was quite rude. Pilju becomes enraged and a green aura begins to emanate from him. Then the man in charge is to finish off Jerry Young. Wanting to provoke his rival, the boy says that since he was being attacked, he would counter with a quick kick. When with a resounding impact, the boy leaps, trekking his opponent's jaw with his leg. After taking the full force of the blow, the man becomes somewhat dazed, trying to process what had just happened right there. Jerry Young's boss remains calm, but the bald man is impressed by a protagonist's speed. Joe-1 once again asserts that he brought the most skilled person he knew, while Pilju is shocked by the kick he received. After the impact, he begins to taunt the man, saying there was a surprise since, judging by his appearance, he expected the bulky man to be a bit tougher. Joe-1 comments that Lee was lost as the boy treated that smuggler like just a normal kid. However, those reflexes and the power behind the kick to the man's chin had already reached the level of professional. The boy also remarks that it seems the ex-adventurer is beginning to understand that this might be a fight you can't win. However, the bald man doesn't give up, stating that the kid was really good, but it was just a lucky kick. Before the bald man could continue speaking, Jerry Young's boss responds that he could only feel pity for the big guy. Ended by rage, Pilju removes his shirt, allowing his aura to surge even more, and Joe-1, seeing this, asserts that Lee was undoubtedly a tank. Next to him, the bald man is extremely surprised that Joe-1 could read his subordinate's abilities, and Iron comments that the old man shouldn't be so shocked. The bulky man says that no matter what cheap trick our protagonist decided to use, he was still just a smuggler, and for that reason was going to show him something interesting. Immediately after, several veins begin to bulge on his body and Lee starts charging a green energy. Jerry Young explains that after the adhesion, people begin to awaken abilities that exceeded their limitations. However, each person has different talents and types, and as expected, they would awaken completely different latent abilities. Adventurers, of course, took on specific training that matched their abilities and assigned roles to themselves. Looking impressed at his rival, Jerry Young states that one of those roles was called a tank. Pilju became extremely stronger and more muscular after using various techniques to perfect and increase his stats. The tank is a position where you protect your teammates from the dangers of the dungeon. In this role, the adventurer faces all the monsters head-on in the vanguard without being able to retreat or show fear. The strength in their bodies trained to the limit allows tanks not even to feel some bullets fired at them. However, higher-ranked tanks can even withstand immense firepower and missiles easily, and are essentially a protected barrier. Observing his rival's transformation, you acknowledge that he is powerful, affirming that the man truly is an adventurer. Pilju, after using all his buffs, quickly charges with both hands to attack the boy in front of him. He is strong, but struggling, manages to dodge, but the ground wasn't so lucky, and the entire floor of that subway shattered. With debris flying his face, our protagonist tries to land, feeling the air from all that power rushing towards him. The bald man, after sensing that power and being practically a normal human, is almost blown away by the wind that formed. However, Han helps him stay on his feet. The one saving him was Jaw-1, who remained as if nothing had happened, then calmly asking the bald man if he was okay. The man says that, in any case, that adventurer was a bastard because he was really going to mess up someone else's business place like that just for a rivalry. Lee charges toward Jerryung, who is in a fighting stance, and the boy just watches his opponent advance. Quickly, the man throws another punch, and the boy narrowly dodges it. With an extremely smut expression, Pilju asks our protagonist what's going on. He also questions why Jerryung isn't using any of his previous tricks, but the young man remains deep in thought. Jerryung retorts, stating that he's not an idiot and wouldn't fall for such an obvious trap like the one the tank was setting. Knowing and feeling all the power radiating from Lee, Jerryung's boss remarks that the ex-adventurer isn't bad. Pilju's physical strength was around the level of a truck, and if a normal person were hit, every bone in their body would be pulverized. But seeing that there could be more destruction in his territory, Jaw-1 orders Jerryung to hurry up and finish it. Because if he didn't, the boy would have to pay for all the damage if anything else broke, and the young man realizes he's running out of options. Pilju maintains that same expression as before, now saying that it seems the boy's boss doesn't understand what's happening. He also emphasizes that Jerryung's cheap tricks are no match for a professional's technique. However, you appear to ignore him and suddenly looks to the side, saying that it seems good. The young man notices that a strong metal beam is positioned beside him and he quickly places his hand on it. Lee doesn't understand that move and is confused, wanting to know what the young man was going to do with it. Jerryung begins to analyze the iron bar in his hand, realizing that it could actually be used, and then states that it should at least be enough. While he was distracted, Pilju charges at him again. The man is so furious that he's gritting his teeth with his aura spilling out. Jerryung explains that due to their enormous durability, the general belief is that tanks are unbeatable beings. However, that's not the case because they have a very clear weakness and a natural enemy, and at that moment, Jawan informs the bald man that the fight is over. Pilju continues to rush at his enemy, completely enraged and determined to end the battle. However, Jerryung doesn't retreat and also charges forward with the iron in his hand. The weakness of a tank is an entity that can focus a powerful and destructive force on a specific point, and at that exact moment, with his improvised weapon, the boy moves to strike his enemy and improve his strength. And DPS, a damage per second, is the primary weakness of a tank, and after saying that the boy strikes his opponent's jaw with the iron bar, unleashing a blast of energy backward. With the blow, the ex-adventurer spits blood, practically fainting from the attack. Jawan isn't surprised at all, unlike the bald man who is completely confused by what just happened before his eyes. After the strike, the tank immediately falls backward, unconscious for a few seconds, and then quickly regains consciousness. With his mouth full of blood, Pilju asks how the protagonist learned to cut like that. But upon hearing this, the boy is confused, asking what the man is talking about. Hanan says that he doesn't know what Lee is thinking, but he's definitely wrong. However, in his mind, he thinks that perhaps Lee isn't entirely wrong, as he may have seen that person before and therefore recognized Jerryung's cutting style. That person was his father, who was known worldwide and had once been extremely powerful. Our protagonist begins to recount his past, and we see him as a child walking through the corridors of his house, reflecting on how when he was very young. His father was the greatest adventurer in the world to him, because the boy felt immense pride in the man, and his favorite pastime was watching his father train in the backyard. And it wasn't just because he was family, the man truly was powerful. His name was Yu Seung, and the man had a muscular appearance and radiated aura and power. As was the soldier we saw in the past, the first human to awaken and defeat one of the monsters. A flashback is shown to explain that Sion was one of the heroes